Now moving along, the portion of my talk this morning is on a tunnel house. And those of you who have one or is about to get one, this is a simple definition of what a tunnel house is. It's a system of growing crops directly in the soil under a Quonset or other shaped building made from wood or polyethylene pipes or metal frame and covered with clear greenhouse plastic with no artificial heating or cooling. And this is very important because when you start to add artificial cooling and artificial heating and you're not planting directly in the soil, you don't have a tunnel house. What you have is a greenhouse. Why would somebody want a tunnel house? The answer to that is simple. Our growing season extends for about 4 to 5 months of the year. The rest of the year is cold or cool. We can't grow a whole lot of crops. So, what I thought of, could I develop a system that would be cheap, easy to manage, and will produce crops that a farmer could sell to increase their cash flow during the cold and the cool months of the year, which is fall, winter, and spring. What I came up with in 1992, ladies and gentlemen, is this, my first venture into tunnel house. Okay? And like I said, this is in 1992. Tunnel houses have just recently became popular. So in 1992, there was no model to work off. So I had to develop my own. And this is what I did. I made a building, structured it in wood, and I used this polyethylene pipe, water line, 1.5 inches, to hold the plastic up on the roof. These pipes were spaced 2.5 feet apart. The plastic was draped over it, and as you can see, with some of the models of tunnel houses you have today, you see you can roll the sides up. These doesn't have any roll-up sides. And I'll explain that later, the reason for that later on. What is holding this plastic down, ladies and gentlemen, is simply a trench along the side there that we dug through the soil, put the plastic in the trench 2 feet, and cover it with soil. Okay? And that is what held the plastic down. Let me go back there. In 1993, the spring, which was around now, we had a blizzard. And that blizzard came in and lasted for about 2-3 days, heavy snowstorm, heavy winds. And I expected that my house would have been somewhere up in the stratosphere. Fortunately, it survived the blizzard of 93. And I tried to find out why I was so lucky. The reason I found out was after looking at the wind flow, I found out that the way I oriented the building, meaning how I placed the building in a north to south direction and not in a west to east direction. How is that significant? It's significant because our wind pattern comes from the west to the east. So you would have the long length of the building blocking the wind. Because in these tunnel houses, if you allow the wind to get in through these doors, and you have a 35-40 mile an hour wind, I don't care what you make that house out, it's going to lift that plastic off. Okay? So how you orient it is very important, and that was the chief lesson I learned in 1993. I learned other things too from that initial study in 1993, and I improved on the design of it. So that today we have two types of tunnel houses. Those of you who are participating in the NRCS cost share program, you are required to purchase a kit. This is what a kit tunnel house looks like. If you're not participating in the NRCS cost share program, then you can build your own house. And there's a big difference in cost here. This would run you about $5,000 to $6,000. This is $1,500 for all of the materials. I didn't include labor in there because you as farmers and growers can build this by yourself with my assistance if you're interested. Once you have a tunnel house, the next question many people have is, what do I plant? And this table here shows you the seasons and the crops that you can plant. And as you can see here, most of these crops have a tolerance for cold or cool weather conditions. This is how you initially prepare your tunnel house, either with the regular walk-behind tiller, or if it's tall enough, you can get a tractor in there and smooth it out. Next question, what to plant and how far apart do I plant? This table shows you some planting distances here, which are very close, and the yield, approximate yield that you can expect. Why? And if you look carefully at this table, you'll see that at the closest spacing distances, you have the highest yield. Question is, why at such close spaces I have these high yields? The answer to that is not very simple, but I'll give you the simple answer to that. The simple answer is, ladies and gentlemen, when you put a plastic structure up with clear plastic, it traps heat. And the heat increases the temperature in the soil where the roots grow. And the root zone temperature is very important in growing crops during the cold and cool seasons of the year. And this is why you can put those plants so close together and get the kind of things. The way you lay your house out is also important. If you plan on planting several different crops in the tunnel house, you would need to have zones, or if you plant in one crop, you can have very long beds. But most important, ladies and gentlemen, you have to drip irrigate in your tunnel houses, because there's no other way you can get water in there. You have to irrigate. Irrigation is vital. You need approximately 1,000 gallons a week. And as the crop matures, you need more water. You can also have a rain catchment system. These are some of the tools that you need to work in a tunnel house. Other than the tiller that I showed you earlier, this is a planter, this is a cultivator, and these are different types of hoes. And as you can see here, they're very small because you have very cramped space in the tunnel house. You also need something to fertilize, which I call an improvised fertilizer spread. Here is nothing more than a piece of pipe with a bottle on top. There's a hole in the cap. And this little stick you see protruding here is what blocks the hole. And when you get between the rows that you're ready to fertilize, you pull this stick out and the fertilizer drops down there between the rows by gravity. So you don't have to go with the old bucket system or hole in the bucket and try and throw the fertilizer out by hand. This other one that you see here is a plant. And if you, it's a regular soda bottle. And I just took a nail and bored some holes in the cap. And I have some lettuce seeds in here. So if you don't have a planter and you need something to help you spread those little tiny seeds out, you just turn this up, and as you squeeze it with a vacuum and you release, the seeds will drop. And it costs you just an empty soda bottle. Okay? Now if you're planting seeds in a tray, tomatoes or pepper seeds, one of these little Dawn dishwashing liquid bottles that you throw away, if you look carefully at the top, the opening is just big enough to allow 2 or 1 pepper seeds or tomato seeds to come out. So when you have your little seed tray, you can just throw this over, 1 seed comes out in each cell. So you don't have to be bothered with a whole bunch of seeds coming out and you scrambling how you want to deal with it. One of the disadvantages growing in a tunnel house is that you're going to get diseases. The way you combat your diseases is because you can't move the tunnel house like you will move your field around. So you will have to solarize it. And this solarization is simply where you smooth the soil, wet it down, and you cover it with a piece of clay or plastic. And you shut the house down during the hot summer months. And you close the house down for either 60 or 90 days. And the temperature in this house is going to climb to about 150 degrees Fahrenheit. And believe you me, it's going to sap all the weed seeds you have inside there and any disease situation you can have. This is 4 shots of how you prepare the house for solarization. Now, am I going to make any money after I go through all the struggle? And my answer to you, ladies and gentlemen, is yes. A ridiculous price of 38 cents a pound. Look what you get for growing kale, collards, cabbages, potatoes. If you have a full house of collards, over a harvest period, you should be able to make a profit of about $1,500. For snap beans, $727. Today, we are working with about 15 tunnel house producers across the state, and as you can see in the wiregrass area is where most of these tunnel houses are, where the security and myself are working with. These are just some shots of Shipman's farm at Arrington. This is the Melton's farm, and they're at black there growing collards this past winter. This is a farm in Eufaula, the beans farm in Eufaula, with collards ready. These collards are ready 45 days after planting. This is what they look like after you crop the collard leaves. You may ask, well, how many collards can I expect to harvest from a tunnel house? It would be approximately 600 pounds. And every 21 days after you see these collards looking like this, 21 days after, they will be back looking like this, ready for harvest. This is a tunnel house in Birmingham where they grow peas, butter beans, and okra. This is one in Hobson City in North Alabama, snap beans, collards. One in Mosses, Alabama. These growers are growing snap beans. And this is one in Thomaston, Alabama, snap beans, and this is turnips. Future outlook will depend on the number of houses that you need, food security, food costs. And I see Mr. Curator on the walk along, and I know I will stay my time. Are there any questions?